Allow me to invite CB to join to provide us with a wisdom story entitled Magic Wanda's Travel Emporium by Joshua Searle White.
This is, as is often the case, adapted. Not long ago, in a town not far from here, a child named Collie, short for collective, their parents were hippies after all. Collie dreamed of taking a journey. They imagined exciting things to see and do: lakes, mountains, islands, flowers, new friends and experiences. At first, the packing for this adventure went fine. Chocolate and socks, a chalice, rope, hiking boots, raincoat, sunscreen, Band-Aids, a printed UU values flower. But one thing was missing: a map. They didn't have a map. How would they know where to go? So Collie went downtown to look for the right kind of map. He looked at all the stores. It was still a functioning downtown in this town. They saw an interesting time. No, they saw an interesting sign. This is what happens when I go off script, y'all. They saw an interesting sign: Magic Wanda's Travel Emporium. Everything you need for the journey of your life. Oh, there were pictures in the windows of waterfalls, castles, people, and amazing food. It looked like the perfect store. So Collie went in, and despite the sign and pictures out front, the store was completely empty. No shelves, tents, guidebooks, nothing. There was nothing. Most importantly, though, there were no maps. The only thing inside was one bare counter in the corner, and behind it sat a person, peacefully watching. Collie said, "There's nothing here." The person didn't respond. Collie thought to leave, but something about the shopkeeper just calmly looking at them made Collie decide to wait a minute. Then Collie said, hello, I'm going on a long journey and I need some help. I came in because your sign says you have everything for the journey of your life. I'm confused. There's nothing here. I'm leaving tomorrow, Monday, so I need to get ready very, very quickly. Can you help? Wanda, the shopkeeper, said, "Oh, yes, you're leaving on a great journey on Tuesday and you need advice." No, said Collie. "Monday is when I leave. Monday." "Ah, you're leaving for a great journey on Wednesday. I'm beginning to understand." "No, you don't understand. It's tomorrow, Monday, that I'm leaving. That's why I'm here, to get some help." Oh, said Wanda. "Yes, of course, you're leaving Monday. But on a journey like this, you don't just leave once and be done with it. Oh, no. On this journey, every day you set out all over again. Every day you get up and decide, am I going or staying here? Am I going to do something different or just the same? Then, each day, if you're ready for the usual joys and sorrows of changing the world and being changed by it, only then do you set off again. So yes, you're leaving tomorrow, and you're leaving Tuesday, and you're leaving Wednesday, and every day after that." Collie sighed. "Okay, I get it." They still needed a map. They asked the shopkeeper, who seemed to have plenty of opinions, if nothing for sale, "Do you have a map?" "Oh, yes, those paper things to tell which direction. Funny thing about maps, you must be very careful. A map is someone else's idea of what the world looks like, not the actual world. People make maps of places like rainforests that change every day. People make maps of how to get things done in politics. I think those are called infographics. But the politics change so fast that last year's map will not help you today. One person's route could be very wrong for someone else because we're different. Human skills and capacities are variable. There's no one way that works for everyone." Oh, Wanda paused at her own insight. That is interesting. No one has ever taken your exact journey, but there are people who have traveled and learned about how to do it. You could get lots of maps and read them and find guides and professionals. Then make your own decisions about where to go or which guide to follow. The child said, "You could be right. There's so much to see. Couldn't I have a map to tell me the most interesting, important things?" "Oh, yes," said Wanda. "There are lots of things in the world, but some of the most exciting and important things won't show up on a map. Why, you may turn a corner and find a huge rock blocking your path. When that happens, you could get upset. Or there might be things you could learn about the rock. How did this rock get here? Is it hot or cold? What happens if you sit and sing to the rock? You never know." "Wait, though, have people experienced sudden rocks before? How did they deal with them? I mean, even a rock blocking your path has a story, something new to learn, if you remember to look for it." Collie said, "But what if a storm comes or I get chased by tigers? Shouldn't I have a map to guide me to know what to do?" "Oh, well, I suppose if you're being chased by tigers or a storm comes so strong it would just poof you off a mountain, I'd recommend taking shelter." Yeah, a nap would be good. It's nothing to sneeze at, you know. You must trust that your journey will continue even if it keeps changing. The journeying parts and the staying put parts, they take turns, you know. When you're staying put, it's important to keep hope and imagination alive, to use that time to read and listen to more guides. And when you're on the journey, it's important to journey in a way that helps everyone be safe on that journey. Collie pondered a moment and considered if they really wanted to ask a question, given that they never got the short answer they were looking for. "Well, if this is all true, is there anything I absolutely need for the journey?" "Oh, of course. Oh, there's one thing people might forget on this kind of journey. People often leave figuring that they should go on these meaningful journeys totally on their own, independent and individual. Well, of course, our personal spiritual journey includes what we care about, our values and commitments, but that doesn't mean that we do it alone. In fact, you shouldn't do it alone. We have shared values and commitments. No journey is complete without company. No one can journey well without the wisdom of others. So yes, let others be part of the journey." Carly said, "Oh, like my UU faith community and communities of resistance and liberation." Yes. Wanda had more advice for Collie. Of course. "Learn and change. This is important. Only teach after you become positive that what you're teaching is still true. It might have been something you learned from an old map. Find out who's been on these journeys before and learn from them. They may have already learned things like how to move a rock." Collie thanked Wanda and went home. And the next day, Collie set out on their journey, bringing along their hopes and dreams, feeling supported by their interdependent communities of faith and practice. And the next day, they set out again, and the next day, and the day after that. Through storms, mountains, tigers, tyrants, rainbows, viruses, and injustices. Through every kind of beauty and every kind of challenge. Every day was a new adventure. And every day, Collie took Wanda's last words to heart. Help your people and let them help you. Thanks for listening to my story. Thank you. One of the things that I love about coming to visit congregations is I get to witness for myself how incredibly resilient we are. So some things changed today. Okay, what's next? I love that about us. When I was a child, I used to love to spend time with my grandfather. Every holiday in the 60s and early 70s, we would make the 8-hour drive to his house. He felt super old to me then, so probably 60. He was a man of small stature and fewer words, who wore blue jeans and had gnarly dirt hands and a 6th-grade education. He lived with my grandmother in a farmhouse with a small attached barn in a large garden where he could grow anything. He intended an amazing blueberry patch on the side of his house. Papa worked in the parts department of the Ford dealership for minimum wage. His job involved stocking and unstocking shelves that were full of boxes that were labeled things like carburetor AXJ1 and air filter Dodge Duster 72 to 74. In the late 70s, after he was no longer the parts guy at the dealership, my grandparents left the farmhouse and moved to a trailer park. Well, I guess we call them mobile home parks now. After a couple of years, Massachusetts, where we all lived, passed a bottle bill. Initially ignored by most folk, Papa subsidized my grandma's small income by picking up discarded cans from the side of the road. He'd wear his garden clothes and big boots and slowly ride his old heavy-framed bicycle up and down the roads with cumbersome plastic trash bags tied on. He'd stop every time he saw them, and he'd pick up the recyclables people had tossed out their car window and support his family 5 cents at a time. People in town called him the can man. Sometimes well-meaning folk would pull their cars over to the side of the road and they'd give money to the can man. They saw a poor person, not a man supporting his family. Their part to help the needy, no doubt. Their good deed of the day. He didn't understand that. It confused him. One Thanksgiving, he asked the table, "Why do people give me money?" As the other adults looked on, their faces stuck in family holiday pleasant setting number 1. They tried to figure out if he really didn't get it, that they thought they were helping the needy. So he suggested, though, while they were thinking, maybe it was because they were grateful he was cleaning up the road. "Oh, yes, that's absolutely it," said the grown-ups unanimously and immediately, their faces switching from pleasant family face setting number 1 to vigorous agreement nodding. Most people didn't meet the parts guy at the dealership or the can man on an old-timey bike on the side of the road and think to themselves, "Here's a man who might have some deep knowledge that could help me." Instead, they made an assessment based on their own expectation of what does a family man look like? What is success? What knowledge and skills are useful in society? And they put him in a category. To this day, I notice when I accidentally put people in a category because of what they're wearing, how they look, or what they're doing. To this day, when I see ICE take anyone, I see my grandfather. They make an assessment of worth and value, and they act not on facts, but on their own personal assessment. Papa would take me to the fair sometimes, and we'd play a few of the games. For 5 or 10 cents, we'd play whack-a-mole. Do you remember whack-a-mole? Maybe they still have it. I don't know. Someone would hand me a giant overstuffed mallet, and a figure of a mole would pop up out of a hole, and I'd whack it back down again. There'd be 10 or 12 of them, and I'd have to whack, and I would get points for how many moles I would whack back down into the hole. It was exciting and exhausting. Eventually, my arms tired, usually before I'd won a prize. So we would walk away to find a better game, or to drown my sorrows in a giant puff of spun sugar. Our political situation right now can lead some of us to think that we're just playing whack-a-mole. I mean, this is our reality. Make 5 phone calls, protest outside an ICE facility, Oh no, the National Institutes of Health has just decided not to fund pandemic preparedness. Oh, wait, what did the Department of Education do now? Oh, a citizen was arrested for speech. They shot two peaceful protesters right after one said, I'm not mad at you, dude. ICE is raiding whatever they want and wherever they want without identification or limits. They're sending legal residents out of the country or to cages in a Florida swamp or to prisons for profits. Nothing to see here, move along, says our government. I can't get all the health care I need. And as a trans person, I don't dare cross a national border right now. Many of my friends are fleeing the states they live in hopes that bluer states will be able to protect them for longer. COVID is still killing hundreds or thousands of people a month and injuring hundreds of thousands of people a year with ongoing brain, heart, immune system, and other organ injuries. It is disease about which our government continues to say, there's nothing to see here, move along. It just doesn't stop. And it's not a whack-a-mole game. There's no walking away to go find a better game, and cotton candy is not cutting it to make me feel better. Anyway, where was I? All right, let's take a breath. If it's comfortable for you. Back then, the olden days, there were other times my grandfather would take me on a walk. They had a tiny parcel of land between a cranberry bog and a pine forest. I invite you to remember it with me. A path went from the back of their house through their backyard and around the side of the bog to the right. After a bit, a pine forest practically touched the corner of the bog and the path branched and split, one part going around the bog and the other to the right into and through the forest. The path into the wood was deeply rutted from the use of four-wheeled carts and tractors. I would often walk in the middle of the raised portion of this path while Papa would walk in a rut. It made me almost as tall as he was, and he was only 5'3". This was a delightful path for me to walk on with my grandfather, my small hand curled up in his large, gnarly one. A path is easy. It's familiar. We were on a walk one day in early summer, deep into the pine forest, when suddenly he startled, dropped my hand, and darted off the path and went 10, 20 feet into the woods. I didn't know what was happening, but I followed him. He turned back to me and with his pointer finger sternly in the air said with a harshness I had never heard in my life, "Stop, don't move." I stopped. I realized then that he was trying to keep me from trampling something on the ground. He said, "You'll hurt them." Oh, I wondered, maybe there was baby birds or a toad, or I hoped it wasn't a snake. So I started moving one foot around in the air, lifting and bending the plants so I could see under them, looking for the creature Papa didn't want me to hurt. Maybe it was a chipmunk. He repeated himself, "Stop, you're hurting them." I was really confused and I froze. I didn't know why I had to stop, but I trusted that he did. He knew why I had to stop, and so I just stopped and I waited. Then, while I was waiting, I noticed that he was pulling up plants, small seedlings and bits of tall grass. He left dead, dry leaves around alone on the ground, and honest to goodness, it looked like he was weeding the woods. I didn't understand, but I waited. Then he told me to walk in a straight line and step where he stepped and come to him. He was weeding in the woods. He was weeding all around these two tiny plants with tiny, beautiful flowers. He had darted off the path for a specific purpose into the woods to clear out some of what was around them so they would have more access to light, soil, and moisture. He explained to me that these were lady slippers. They were endangered flowers, a kind of orchid. He taught me that it took between 10 and 16 years for a lady slipper to grow from seed to flower. And if you pick or disturb a lady slipper, it'll just give up and die. When I was waving my foot in the air before, trying to move plants out of the way to see what creature I was looking out for, I might have been disturbing one. My grandfather, my papa's great gift in life was not philosophy or medicine, law, science, or literature. It was a deep understanding of nature. Those blueberry bushes I mentioned, they're still there, 70 years later. The house has been redone and sold and redone and sold, but everybody knows that those blueberry bushes are a gift. You can Google it on a map. Not that kind of map. His understanding of nature went deep into his bones, and it ran through his blood. It had nothing to do at all with how well he could read or how far he'd gone in school or what he did to make a living. His wisdom had nothing to do with the parts department or collecting cans. For he and I, walking the path around the bog and into the woods wasn't a path to anything in particular, although that path greatly determined where we walked. For the workers who worked in the cranberry bog and the farmer who lived on the other side of the forest, that path itself was a journey with a destination. If they drove a cart through, it meant that only one direction and one destination could happen at a time. The ruts were so deep, they controlled the carts. It's easy for a path to become so routine that it becomes a rut. But for my grandfather and I, it was a path upon which to travel, to have experiences, to jump into and out of, a home base of sorts for being in his natural world that he understood in ways I never will. Now, there were parts of the journey that were like whack-a-mole, mosquitoes, for instance, right? But the path itself wasn't a rutted, limiting option. It was a means to observe the world. When he left the path, my grandfather chose to carefully and knowledgeably travel a new way. And the new way that he traveled changed the world. Changed the world, you might say? What's that? What, two small plants in the big wide world? Huh. It's the whole world to those two plants. I'm going to return in 6 weeks. And we're going to talk more about this. And in between, I would like you to reflect on just a couple of questions. First, as you think about yourself and how you increase justice in the world, what are your similarities to the characters in today's worship? Collie or Wanda, young me or my papa? Perhaps you find yourself similar to people who misunderstood who my grandfather was. Perhaps you are a person who knows how to whisper to a rock and move it. When do you follow? And when do you lead? And how do you make the decision about when to follow and whether it is necessary to lead? Thank you for being with me here today.